Stephen, please lead us off.
Well, hello and welcome to the Zinzino Science Insights. I'm Stephen Cherniske, a research biochemist. To my right is Natalie Kather, my wife, and a brilliant physician, board certified in anti-aging and in family medicine. And we bring this to you once a week, and we are appreciative of your being flexible to this new time. Hopefully, this works for you. I know it's the middle of the day for many of you, and it's in the evening for you folks in England and Scandinavia. But at the same time, we like to make this brief and impactful, but it has to be usable information. And so we constantly try to make it usable. In other words, if this is just something that we goes between us and you and it stops there, that doesn't help anyone much. It helps somebody, right? Because we all learn something, and knowledge is important, and it's information is powerful. But if you can't then relay that to other people, you see, that's the secret. That's where we really have to make the material reproducible, because this is what's called a network marketing endeavor, and not a unilevel marketing endeavor. So let's get started. We're talking about the gut and the brain. I want to start with something called GABA. And I mention this because many of you have seen the term GABA aminobutyric acid. You might not know what it is, but you know that it's important. So let's talk really briefly about GABA, the nervous system.
Which stands for?
Gamma aminobutyric acid.
Thank you.
And so the I'm old, right? And so I remember when GABA was discovered. And at that time I was in graduate school. And I was really excited about this because it was this new discovery. So what I wanted to know is, a brand new neurotransmitter, never been identified before. What does it do? And so the professor put a little video on, and we looked at rats where they were putting rats under stress. And the way they did this was by immobilizing the rats. And rats hate to be immobilized. It causes them great distress. And they showed that the rats were able to find their way through the maze to get their reward. But when they stressed the rats by immobilizing them, the rats could no longer get through the maze to get the reward, which we called cheese, but it wasn't really cheese. Point is that, so when they injected GABA into the brains of these rats and immobilized them, they still, once they were free from their restraints, they still found their way to the cheese just as easily as if they had not been immobilized. In other words, it abolished the stress response. So we were like, wow, this is spectacular. Now, you know what happened next, right? The science was published, and then everybody went out to synthesize GABA and to sell it to people who were stressed. And of course, that was not the way the research was done. The research was done by injecting GABA directly into the brain of these mice. Anyway, my point is that guess what happened then? It took over a decade, but then it was discovered you don't have to inject GABA into the brain. Fortunately, right? Fortunately, guess what? It's synthesized in the gut.
The other brain.
The other brain. Now go back to my little questionnaire here. So now we know what GABA does, right? It helps to create an action plan. That's what I want you to remember. I want you to think about your life and when stress hits you. When stress hits you, what happens is your brain is activated, your nervous system is fired up, and the first thing that you want to do is what? Create an action plan. We are all resilient creatures. We all experience stress. as Scott Peck famously said in his book, The Road Less Traveled, right? Life is stressful, right? So that being the case, how do you respond to this stress? And it is with this wonderful neurotransmitter called GABA that helps you to create an action plan. Now, with that, we know it's synthesized in the gut. The synthesis and activity is promoted by the gut microbiome. Specifically, what dietary component specifically is known to influence the production and the activity of GABA?
Wait, the clue.
The clue.
It's one of these ingredients.
Oh, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Raise your hand if you know the answer. And the answer is beta glucan. All right, our good friend beta glucan, which is not only found here, but also in Extend.
Extend Plus, and Protect.
Wow.
This company loves beta glucans, and for all the right reasons.
And so does your gut. Now, Natalie has more good things to talk about relating to the gut-brain axis.
So thank you, Jennifer Rao, who inspired this talk by sending me information about some bacteria which create neurotoxins. So there are good bacteria that help our brain, and there are bad bacteria that hurt our brain. So we're going to talk about
Yikes.
ZinoBiotic. And when we go to the web page, for where you can shop and buy ZinoBiotic, this is some of the additional information that's offered about ZinoBiotic, which it ensures benefits for the whole colon, having resistant starch, inulin, beta glucans from oats, fructooligosaccharides, and psyllium husk that are fermented in the colon and promote several bowel functions, for example, blood sugar control, and then the concept of gut health, because it is a prebiotic in that it feeds the good bacteria of the gut, and then they munch on it and they turn it into postbiotics, which are important nutrients that we need for our health, like beneficial short-chain fatty acids and even B vitamins. But there's nothing on here, and even cholesterol levels because of the beta glucans coming from oats. We love that it's gluten-free, but what about the gut-brain axis? It doesn't mention that, and there are important benefits with these 8 fibers that come from ZinoBiotic. And so when we think about brain health, we want to think about those microbes that actually improve our mood and cognition, give us mental clarity and an appreciation for the joy of life, right?
Yes.
This first guy, we're just going to call him FP and not struggle with the language.
Right.
FP creates butyrate, which I just mentioned is one of the important nutrients for our own health. And studies have shown in humans, because I asked Perplexity to help me with this, specifically with humans, that yes, if it's depleted, people tend to lose that good mood and struggle with depression. Another one that's important for well-being and happiness, lactobacillus, and supplementation, even with humans, has shown to help reduce anxiety and depressive-like behaviors. And we think about vagal nerve stimulation. And some providers have even been, asking questions that we've been getting about, well, what role does this play or this product play for vagal nerve stimulation? Because more and more providers are understanding the importance of that neurological pathway.
The neurological pathway between the gut and the brain.
Yeah.
Along the vagus nerve.
The gut-brain axis, bifidobacterium, living in the lower colon, and then this other Candidatus saccharomonas. Okay, so we got some good guys here. That's what we got. We have a list of good guys. And these microbes can influence mood and cognition through neurotransmitter production. Thank you, Stephen, for starting this conversation with the gamma aminobutyric acid issue. And another reason for choosing this topic is we're building up to the new test that's going to be released in October, which is about gut health. And so as you hear more in October, you're going to come back to this and be like, oh, I get it. I know what they were hinting at, but that they couldn't say. All right, so here's our known good guys for humans. We have one, two, three, four, five, six, and here's benefits and the types of evidence. Yay, human, 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 human. This one animal, but human. Great. So now we know these are the good guys. So what do we feed them, right? Well, it turns out we feed them ZinoBiotic. So,
So it's not that the Zinzino products contain all those good microbes.
nope.
It's that you wanted to show us that those good microbes do really important things. And those microbes exist in your gut, but their activity is throughout your nervous system, including your brain.
Yes.
So now let's look at, well, how do we get more of those good guys? Tell us more.
Well, the ZinoBiotic, it's 1 scoop per day. It also has 5 grams of fiber. And of course, we want to have a highly varied natural foods diet. When we have an ultra processed foods diet, we tend to mess up what our microbiome is, and it makes it easier for bad guys to sneak in. And we don't want bad guys sneaking in that can create neurotoxins. And again, you can see how comprehensive, when it comes to the brain gut axis, how comprehensive Xenobiotic is.
Yes. So every word that you have highlighted, that is a a microbe that is produced or it is assisted to be produced by the xenobiotic. So that's wonderful.
Right, that they love to munch on
Yeah.
Xenobiotic, and we get more of them, which is important for our mental clarity, our brain health, and our joy of life. I thought this,
When you found that, this is a great illustration, which again is going to come in handy when you're trying to explain to people this new gut health or leaky gut test that's coming out in next month. What we want you to see here, right here, is that the polyphenols, these bacteria, especially in this case, Akkermansia, but that's just one of many bacteria strains
good guys.
that love the polyphenols. And when they are nourished by polyphenols and they are present in sufficient quantity, you see you have an extra layer. You have a healthy mucin layer, you have an epithelial cell layer, and all of that is protective against what? All these bad guys that want to have access to your bloodstream through a compromised gut barrier. So just keep that little picture in mind because we're going to be showing you that a couple of times and similar graphics to help you to understand and to communicate the value of this test called the leaky gut test.
Yeah, and I'd like to
Yeah.
expand on this. So Akkermansia did not come up as one of the ones known yet for the gut-brain axis, mental clarity, mood, but it is a good bacteria when we relate back to other gut health issues. And in this picture, what they're trying to show is the Akkermansia are gobbling polyphenols, which they love, and at the same time, they're also eating this mucin layer. And that process of them eating at it stimulates the goblet cells to make more of it. So it's kind of a healthy, healthy sloth. Exactly. Yep.
Deplete. Yep.
And so we need to make sure that we're optimizing our epithelial gut health too. So every cell of our body, I wanted to relate it back to making sure that we take our balance oil every day. So we have this layer so that these guys can't sneak in. And that one's really scary to me because he's going right into the blood vessel. All right.
I'd like to add one more. You mentioned something called a highly varied natural foods diet. What we have to understand is that once the microbiome became a common conversation, not only in the medical literature, but a common conversation among any health conscious individual who is accessing the internet. And once that happened, this kind of became a popular focus of attention. A lot of labs just sprung up to measure your microbiome and to tell you, that you needed to buy their product. So Natalie and I were looking at these as they came up. We even tried a few to see if there was any consistency in the results, and there wasn't. Why do you think that is? Why was there no consistency in the results? In other words, these laboratories failed to provide you with a confident microbiome structure that they would call the best and give you a path towards achieving that. Why was that so difficult? Why, I would even say impossible to achieve. Because your gut microbiome depends entirely upon your diet. And everyone's diet changes. So guess what? Your microbiome changes. In the summertime, most of us eat a lot more fruit. Natalie and I eat fruit every time we take a walk because we're walking by our neighbor's tree, which has plums, and then we'll walk by another neighbor's house that has peaches, walk by another neighbor's house that has apples, and we're literally eating fruit on our walk. So we eat a lot more fruit in the summer. You probably do too. So we not only change our diet according to the season, but we change our diet according to our finances. Let's face it. All right. If you can afford a highly varied natural foods diet of organic vegetables and fruit, you're going to have a different microbiome than if you were eating ramen every day. Right. So even your economics plays a role in this. But what's consistent day after day after day? Right? Number one is the balance of your omega-6, omega-3. That has to be a consistency day after day after day. And we're also recommending that you make the ZinoBiotic a consistent part of your diet, even though the rest of your diet is going to change according to the seasons. Yes. According to your likes and dislikes. Sure. But if you have a highly varied natural foods diet with two consistent factors, you're going to really have a very good chance of having a microbiome that is healthy, that will support your brain, support every cell of your body. It's the two things that we think everyone ought to have every single day: ZinoBiotic and Balance Oil.
We have some good questions here.
Ah,
John McDougall, thank you for joining us from all the way across the pond. He asks, is it a good idea to build up the dose of ZinoBiotic gradually rather than going to straight to 2 scoops?
I think so.
Yeah, for many people, yes. Um, but of course, everybody is different, and so their history of how they tolerate fibers too in the
Yeah.
past may help with that decision. And then Sarah asks, is it 1 or 2 scoops for the xenobiotic? And on here, it says suggested use is 6 grams or 1 scoop. But because this is such a
Comprehensive.
comprehensive yet neutral kind of product,
Mm,
you could do it multiple times a day. And some people do like to get more fiber in their diet by increasing their xenobiotic, because we'd like to get 30 grams per day of fiber in our diet, and this is only 5 grams.
yeah.
Yep. All right. Jennifer, you have a great question. Do the bad microbes also thrive on the ingredients in xenobiotic? So from what I've looked at, there are some bad bacteria that also like some of the ingredients in there. And the bigger picture of it being comprehensive, though, is that it's supporting the good bacteria.
Yeah.
Um,
Early on in our discussions with Paul Clayton, who formulated Xenobiotic, and I still say this is the thing that he likes the most of all the different
well, it's
products
his
in the line.
baby.
And in our early discussions with Paul, he answered this question very nicely, and said that what you're doing here is basically providing the good bacteria with the substances that they need to thrive. And those good bacteria over time, not won't happen instantaneously, but over time, those good bacteria will far overpower the presence of any pathogenic bacteria in the gut. And that's the role here. The role is to create the environment, the optimal environment for these good bacteria to thrive, and that over time they will replace, they will eliminate, they will outcompete, in other words, the pathogens that might be existing in your gut.
And when people are also taking other products besides the ZinoBiotic, like if they're also taking the Extend,
Yeah.
they're getting more beta glucans, which
Yeah.
have great data regarding supporting our immune system.
Yeah.
So, we're talking about the good guys in the gut, but there's another set of good guys too that we're also being attentive to, which is the immune system. And 70% of the immune system is wrapped around the gut. The great questions here.
And we could talk about that for the next hour. Natalie just reminded you that 70% of your immune system resides in your gut. What are all those immune cells doing down there? They are at the nexus. Listen to this. They are at the nexus of where not self becomes self. So you see how critically important that is. Every time you eat food, you're eating you're eating molecules that ultimately have to become you: your hair, your skin, your nails, your brain cells, your toenails. I mean, everything that you are is built from the not self material that you take in. And the nexus of that not self to self is your gut, which is why it's so important for your immune system to be active down there. Anyway.
Well, listen to this, because Frenna totally has it going on. She understands this so well. And when the gut test comes out next month, she says, the interconnectedness of the protocol, the health protocol premium, is becoming more obvious. Mood, ZinoBiotic, Viva gut brain connection depends on healthy cell membranes, balance oil, plus the importance of the polyphenols as just described. Yes. That's what we're going to see as we work with our new test as it comes out, is it relates back to this system with this protocol and how all these products together and this system really push things forward in our health, especially for our gut. How long can someone take ZinoBiotic, and when do you know it's enough? Well, it's how long are you going to be eating, right? It's an important part of the diet. These types of fibers are an important part for optimizing our metabolism through our gut health, through our immune system health. And so keeping it always part of the diet is an important thought, because our metabolism changes with every meal. It's not just about what we're eating to feed ourselves, but it's also about what we're eating to feed this ecology, this ecosystem inside of us that's 3 times bigger in numbers than we are. We are 36 trillion cells, right? And that gut is 100 trillion cells. Who's really the pet? Are they my pet or am I their pet, right? What is that relationship? Who's the host, right? Who's really in control? Yes, so xenobiotics will always be part of my diet. Well, thank you, everyone. And we're doing great on time. And now it's time for lunch, I think. Take good care of yourselves. Have a highly varied natural foods diet for lunch.
Yes.
Yeah, and avoid the ultra-processed stuff. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Guys. Great job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
You two wonderful doctors. Thank you.
Bye-bye.